So here we'll talk about what scientists do and how they do it and why they do it. So we'll talk about these three things. What do scientists do? Why do they do it? And how do they do it? And this is something important. So let's first look at what do scientists do? Then why? Then how? What do scientists do? Well, scientists do research, right? And this is a picture of a psychologist, Daniel Kahneman. At least for now, he's the only psychologist who received a Nobel Prize in economics. In fact, he influenced the field so much so that there is actually a new field now called behavioral economics. So this class will teach you what researchers like him do. Okay. Now I'm going to give you a quick idea of this particular experiment, right? That way you know what an experiment entails and so on and so forth. So this experiment is part of a set of studies conducted by Daniel Kahneman and his group for and later on there were many other things that came out of this study that eventually led Kahneman and his group to and Tversky, they both received a Nobel Prize. So what is this study? Well, it's called the Cornell coffee mug experiment. So in this experiment, half of the participants were told that you were given a Cornell coffee mug like this, whereas the other half were told not you, but the person sitting next to you or another student actually received a Cornell coffee mug and not you. So they randomly assigned participants either to believe that they owned a coffee mug or not, but somebody else in the class owned a coffee mug. Okay. Then participants, now this is all on a piece of paper. So they'll say, hey, it either reads you won a coffee mug or it says not one, depending on the condition they are assigned to. Then they were asked a question. And the question is pretty much same, except for whether you're owner or a non-owner of this coffee mug. And the question reads something like this, depending on the condition you are in. The question is about the value, the perceived value of the coffee mug. Now, the question goes something like this. How much do you think if you own it, right? If you're in this condition, right? How much do you think, how much would you be willing to sell this coffee mug that you own to your classmate who doesn't have one? Okay. To the other group, the question that goes on their paper is same wording is same, except that they change the owner to non-owner and sell to buy. So the question would be, how much would you be willing to buy this coffee mug from your classmate who owns one? The numbers they give would represent the perceived value of the object that's there. Okay, this is what they did. They collected these answers participants gave. Let's say there were like 100 participants in this group, 100 participants in this group. There are 100 numbers, right? Because each one of them gave a number, a perceived value of the coffee mug, and you have 100 numbers here. And they took an average of these 100 numbers and they took an average of these 100 numbers. What do you think would have happened there?
I have a feeling one was higher than the other.
You feel that the average of one would be higher than the other. Which one do you think would be higher?
That I don't know.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And that's exactly what they found. What they found, people who were told you owned a cup, they valued it more than people who were told they were not owners. And this is one experiment. So the perceived value of something changes with your ownership. If you own something, you value it more than if you don't own, right? So now at this point, you have to keep in mind that there are only two things here. What are those two things? And will talk more about these variable stuff, but what are those two things?
Possession,
Possession, ownership is one thing. And there is another thing that you said,
the value that's
the
placed
plan.
on it.
So this question, the question itself that researchers had for this situation was whether one influences the other, which is whether ownership of an object influences the value we place on it. And this experiment suggests that it does. And researchers actually ask questions like these all the time. They ask questions about these two things. Do you know what these two things are?
It kind of sounds like a basic concept of supply and demand.
Could be, but what are these things in general, though? Like ownership. What are the possibilities of this thing called ownership in this study? So this ownership has two options here. You're either an owner or a non-owner. Okay. Whatever values they can give it to it, right? It can be $0. It can be $1. It can be $2, $3, $4, $5,000, whatever it is. Right? Right? And you know what these two things are called that are not constant, but that keep changing? Ownership is not constant, right? You're either an owner or a non-owner. You can be both. Similarly, the value someone places is not constant. Someone places $1, $2, $3. So anything that is not constant is called.
Valuable.
So anything that doesn't have a constant value, but it changes from person to person, place to place, time to time is called a variable. Okay. And in this case, Emma, as you rightly said, one of them is manipulated, which is the ownership, and that's called independent variable. The other one is measured to see if this manipulation changed that measure, and that is the
Dependent.
dependent variable. See, you guys are rocking. I mean, good job. Um, so what do researchers do is basically ask questions about such variables. They ask questions about variables. A variable is a thing that is not constant. It changes from person to person, place to place, or time to time. Let's look at one example here. What is your height? Just give me a number. So what do you think this height is then? You see, these are all different, right? You all gave me 6 point. There are variables, right? So height here is a variable. Okay. Now let's not worry about the independent or dependent. We're just talking about constructs called variables. Variables are anything that are not constant but changes from person to person, place to place, time to time. Let me ask you another question, and it's okay whatever you answer. Let's say, or your race. How about that? And at any point, if my questions doesn't make you comfortable, you don't need to answer. Okay. So what is race then? Do you see different varieties of answers? What is race then? Is race a variable? Yes. So researchers are interested in constructs called variables. And we'll learn more about variables later. So what do scientists do? They conduct research experiments like these. What scientists do? Well, the question is, why do they do it? The purpose, like why the heck do they do it? Well, the fundamental thing of doing research, the reason for doing research is to answer or to seek answers to their questions. So what do scientists do? They do research. Why? So they can answer the questions they have. Well, you can ask question again. Why do they answer the question? We don't know that. We just have questions, burning questions, and we try our best to answer these questions or set out to answer these questions. What these questions are, the scientists ask, and how to find answers to these questions. It starts with a
Question.
and it temporarily ends with an answer, but it will set out you on another set of questions, and it's a cyclical process of starting a question, finding an answer, starting a question, finding an answer. That's what we do, and that's what you'll do this year. So if you have any burning questions, so keep a list of those questions. We will get back to this. So what questions? These are questions we know, but what questions are these? Are there any random questions like, okay, what do you think I had breakfast this morning? What do you think I had for breakfast this morning? Now, who cares if I had or if I did not my breakfast and what I had for breakfast? But let's look at some examples and try to see what is common in these questions. So let's look at these questions. Let's look at this. Do majority of people in the US like dogs? This is a question you can answer by conducting research. Don't you think so? Yeah. Okay. Now the other question is, let's see. What's this? The other question is, what is the average height of Indians? Well, Asian Indians. So can you answer this question? Yeah, man. What percentage of university professors in the US support death penalty? Do you think you can answer this question? Yeah, we can answer these questions. These are the kind of questions, right? But what is common among these questions?
They can be researched and you can find data on them to answer the question.
Okay, that's right, Kinsey. What else?
All the questions look at like a certain group of people, whether that be like Indians or professors.
So this is about one thing that's common is that it is not about one person. For instance, the first question is the people in the US. The people in the US. The question is that's being asked is about people's opinion in the US, not about my opinion, right? Not about Mackenzie's opinion, not about Kinsey's opinion, or not about Sydney's opinion. It's about people, a group of people. That's a very good answer. This question, what is the population here? University professors in the US. right? So what is common is that these questions are about not one individual's value of a variable, but about a group of people. We call that population. These questions are about population. Now, what is a population then? Well, population is a group of people with common characteristics. You get it? A group of people with common characteristics. And that group of people in this case is, what is that group of people? People in the US. What is that group of people? Indians. What is the group of people here? University professors in the US. So the group itself can be a small group or a large group, as long as the group that you're interested in has some common characteristics. So what is common here is that this is all about, the questions are about, what are these questions? These questions are about population, not an individual. So what do scientists do?
Ask
Re-
questions about
do
and then
research.
try to
Do research. What is the purpose of doing research? To ask questions and find answers. What kind of questions are these? These questions are about population, not an individual. And a population is a group of individuals with similar characteristics. It can be a small group. If your question is about just the University of Southern Indiana, that can be a population. You can talk about all the students in the US. That can be a population. Population can be the entire world. That can be a population. Population is a group of individuals. Okay. What else is common now? Because you're doing great. I mean, come on. I'm so proud of you. What else is common
you're trying to
among these
find
questions?
like you're trying to find like an amount.
One more time, Rachel.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Like you're trying to answer the question of in the form of like a quantity, like the majority of people, what's the average
Yes.
height, like a specific height and the percentage.
So what are those things? Yeah, you're hitting the nail, if that's an expression. Perfect. Just that it needs a name. So these are quantifiable things that you can measure, right? What do you call such things that you can measure? And you measure because they are. Why do you care to measure?
To get more of an accurate understanding of what's going on.
Okay. Is there a name for such constructs?
Is it a variable?
Yes, Kinsey, you got it right. Okay, high five now. Good job. So, yeah. So, another thing that's common is that these questions are about population, but these questions are about variables in the population. Get it? It's about variables in the population. What do you think is the variable here? The first one,
Americans?
the Donald Trump one. The population is people in the US, right? But what is the variable about the people in the US that your question is about? What about the people in the US are you interested in?
If they like Donald Trump.
Right? Can you give a name to that?
Like supporters?
Supporters or likability, right? So the variable here is likability of Donald Trump. Okay. The population here is people in the US.
Yeah.
Right. So this question is about the variable Donald Trump's likability and the population of interest is this. What about this one? Second one. Chime in. Before I learn your names and start taking your names. No, I will not do that to embarrass you at all.
Is it the height?
Height is the variable, right? The population is Indians.
Indian.
What about the next one?
The variable would be professors.
Professors would be variable or population?
Population. Just kidding.
So what about the population that this question is interested in?
Their support.
Of the
Their
death
support.
penalty.
Their support of death penalty or their opinion about death penalty, right? So that is a variable. So what can we say? I'm going to ask you a question. And this is the question that I might sometime in the middle of the night come and knock your door virtually and say, hey, Sydney, what do researchers do? Then you'll have to say they do
Research.
research. And then I would go to Abby's apartment and knock the door. I may not do it. I'll ask Florence to do it. But Abby, why do they do research?
To ask questions and find answers.
Perfect. Ask questions and find answers to the questions. Bree, what kind of questions are these? Who are these questions about?
People with a
Perfect.
population.
Good job. This is about population. So researchers do research so they can answer questions about population. But what in the population that they are asking question about? How about Rachel Sorrells? Sorrels or Sorrels? I'm sorry.
Charles, and different variables.
Perfect. Okay, so say it with me. What do researchers do? What do scientists do?
Research.
Research.
Why do they do it?
To
Find
ask
answers to their questions.
questions.
What
Get
kind of
answers.
questions are these? Questions
Population.
about population. Questions about let's make it a sentence. Questions about variables in the population. Questions about variables. in the
Variables.
pop- Good. So this is what it is. Likability, population, height, Indians, and so on and so forth. These questions are about variables in the population of interest. Again, I will make this video available, so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. Okay, now I want you to take a few moments, right? Take a few moments and jot down these questions, or just keep looking at these questions. Can you read these questions? Are these big enough? Okay, and try to answer these questions in terms of what is the population, what is the variable.
Do you want us to answer out loud or like type it?
Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Out loud, who want to go?
The population for the first one is college students.
Okay, okay, okay. I'll let somebody else answer the other question. The variable. Anybody else?
The variable is for female president, whether they believe it's time to have a female president.
So yeah, that's absolutely right. Their beliefs about something. The something here is whether they believe it's high time. So their belief is the variable, and the population is the college students in the US. Does it say in the US? Yeah. Okay. Next question. What is the average weight of sumo wrestlers?
Population is sumo wrestlers.
Population is sumo wrestlers, and what is the variable? Anybody else?
The variable is the weight.
Yes, the variable is weight. So far, so good, right? Okay, now let's go to the other one. Be careful here. Are males taller than females in general?
Would the population be both males and females?
Yeah, that's because the question is about them, right? So population is males and females, or say people. If those are the only genders you're taking into account, if you take more, then that'll be different. But the population here is the male, female people in general. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Okay, what is the variable?
Height.
Height is the variable. Absolutely right. Now think about it for a second. If I phrase the question, what is the height of, let's assume that there are only males and females in this regard for our discussion. I'm going to say, what is the height of people in the world? Okay. So what is the population in that question?
Everywhere.
Like people. What is the variable, right? Okay. Now, how is that different from this question? In the world or in general, are males taller than females? The population we know is people in general, both males and females, right? People in general. The variable is height. Is there anything else here? Is there another variable here? That's my question.
Would it be that the question on the screen is comparing the two?
Yeah. Would those two be possible values of another variable? If so, what would those values be and what would that variable be? I can see Jessica nodding. Do you see another variable there? Not just height. Kenzie, what is that? I see you nodding your head. What would that variable be?
Wouldn't it also depend on like where the study would be taking place?
Let's say
So-
this is about the entire world or just the US.
Oh, okay.
So the population is people in the US, at least the male, female people in the US. And one variable is height. Is there another variable?
Would gender be the variable, like what you identify yourself as?
Yes. So gender would be another variable. Okay. Because gender is not constant. Not everyone in the world is just male, just female, or just other, whatever things we come up with. It keeps changing from person to person. So it is a variable. So this research question is not about a variable in the population, but it is about, I can just give you that. But the moment your head is going through a lot of things, right? That is important for this class, which will help you remember things instead of just me giving you that. What do you think about the variables you think this question is asking about? Like one variable is gender, the other variable is height. What about these two variables? Or is this question interesting? I don't know if there's a better.
Are you trying to see if they're connected?
Yes, relationship. Absolutely right, Mackenzie. Relationship, connection. So a research question is about a variable in the population or relationship between two or more variables in the population. Is that clear? Okay. Let's look at this one now. Are males in favor of death penalty more than females? So take a moment, think about the population, think about the variable or variable? Anybody want to try? So Lauren,
Is
you're a
one-
co-host. Just sorry.
No, you're fine. Is one variable like who's in favor of the death penalty?
Let's start with the population. What's the population?
Males and females?
So people in general.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then what is one variable you said?
Whoever's in favor of the death penalty.
So whoever makes it population, right?
Okay.
What is the variable? That's a very good. You're getting there. You
Just-
got it almost. Yeah.
Favor of death penalty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favor or opinion about death penalty or favorable opinion about death penalty, right? So that's one of the variables. What is the other variable if there is one?
Would that also be location as well?
No, there is no location, is there? If
No.
there is a location, no.
I mean, like people in the US compared to people in India.
But that's not the question is about, is it? If
Okay.
it were the case, that would be a research. That would be a question. How would you phrase that question? Let's capitalize on that idea.
I don't know how to phrase it, but like I don't know much about Indian culture, but wouldn't that vary depending on where you're at?
Yeah, that it could, right? Then you can ask a question like, are Indians in favor of death penalty more than Americans or other way around? Then the country would be one variable and the opinion about death penalty would be another variable. What would be the other variable here? One variable is opinion about death penalty, favorable opinion about death penalty. What is the other variable?
Isn't it the oh yeah, gender, yeah.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay, I won't trick you all the time. It's only sometimes I trick you. But so yeah, when we went from here to here, that was a trick. But when we're going from here to here, it's just another example. Okay, so gender and favorable. Is there any relationship between one's gender and their opinion about death penalty? That's what it is, and these two are variables. So bottom line is this. Oops. What do researchers do?
Research.
Why do they do it?
Ask questions. Answer questions. And gather
What
answers.
kind of questions?
Questions about variables and population.
Population.
Questions about a variable or relationship between two or more variables in the population of interest. Okay, so that's what scientists do. So we answer this question. What do they do? Why do they do it? What's the next one? How they do it? Well, let's take one question and try to answer this. Okay? What percentage of people in the US support death penalty? What you can do basically is you're a scientist, you have a question about the population. What's the population here?
Be the US.
People in the US. And what is the variable about these people in the US that this question is about?
So support.
Right? The support of death penalty. Now, one way to conduct that is like ask everybody in the population, collect data from the entire population, and then see what percentage of that population are in favor of death penalty. A simple way, right? And we often do that. Do you agree?
I mean, I would say it's doable, but at the same time, like the method in which you try to get the question from everybody, because if you're doing it like online, maybe not everybody has access to the internet. You're not counting in like the homeless population if you're sending in flyers.
Yep.
You know, people like walking around. So having like multiple methods of being able to collect that information.
Yes, absolutely right. It's tedious. It's not economical. Let's say 1,000 individuals, 1,000 researchers have 1,000 questions each. You cannot ask everybody in the population to answer all your questions every time someone comes with a question. It's not economical at all, right? There is a better way to do it, and that's what this class is about, and we'll talk about it. But I have a quick question. Like sometimes people do collect data from the entire population. Can you think of the name for such situation?
Like a census.
Yes, census, right? But that's not what researchers do. They don't conduct census, right? They actually do something else. What would that something else be then? I'm not going to show you right away the next slide, but just think about it. Let's say you're watching news, okay? And you have seen these Gallup polls, and you have seen this Biden and Trump's, what is that? Their chances of winning the race, right? How do you think they do it? Biden 53, Trump 48, whatever that is, or vice versa. Numbers keep changing, right? Do you think they ask you, each one of us?
Do they conduct
No.
a poll?
They conduct a poll, right? And what do you think they do when they conduct?
Well, it's optional, and you have to give consent to do it in the first place. You can't force people.
You
take
cannot
part.
force people. You cannot force people. You can. Does it mean that you have to connect to all the people in the population and see who will answer? Or is there any other better way?
That they use smaller samples of population.
That's right, Jessica. Yes. High five. Okay. Okay. Yes. So what scientists do is instead of collecting data from the entire population of interest, they use research methods, scientific methods. And the main point of scientific method is this. They select a random sample. That's very important. They select a random sample of, say, 1,000 individuals in this case. The research question is about favorability towards death penalty in the US. So they select 1,000 individuals randomly, say they call them or something, and then see how many of these 1,000 individuals are in favor and how many are not in favor. So let's assume that out of these 1,000 individuals, 790 said that they were in favor and 410 individuals said they are not in favor. So you calculate the percentage of those who are in favor because that's what your question is about, right? So what is the percentage then? It's the number that said they are in favor divided by total number of individuals, which is 1,000. So 590 divided by 1,000 into 100. That would be how much? 59%. So the answer to the question now is that 59% of people in the US are in favor of death penalty. Is that an accurate number? We're almost getting there. Okay, I promise. Can you claim that? Yeah, Rachel, go ahead. Sorry.
It depends on, I mean, I guess, is it truly random and like how many different populations are represented in your sample?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Let's assume that it was random enough. Still, is this number indicative of the entire population or just the sample?
Would it be a big enough sample size?
Let's assume that we have like 10,000. Even then, would the number that we'll come up with, which is in this case 59%, would that be a representative of the population number?
No.
I'll give you an example. Let's say Rachel randomly selected 1,000 individuals and she found 59%. Okay. Then Madison Wade said, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it and see if it actually matches. She will randomly select another 1,000 individuals. Then she will come up with, what number do you think she'll come up with? Same 59%? No, it will change. It could be 50%. Somebody else collects another 1,000. It will change again. Each sample value will change because of error. Okay, we'll talk about those statistical terms later, right? Yes. So this is not, 59% is not about the population. You cannot 100% be sure that that's the number in the population. But this is specific to this sample that is collected. Now the question is about the population, not about the sample. 59% is about the samples. Now the question is, how can you go from your sample 59% value to your population X value, right? Yeah. We use probability. We use probability to estimate the population values based on the sample values. The sample value is 59. Then what we'll do is we will use this probability. This is like a magic wand. We run this magic wand on this data you have, which is 59% per sample, but it does something and it will give you an estimate of the population value. Then using probability, you will say, well, you know what? I'm 90% confident that the estimated population value of this variable of interest is somewhere between 55 and 75. You see that? So researchers estimate population value based on sample values with certain degree of
Certainty?
Certainty or confidence. That's why in polls too, what do they say? Biden is 52, Trump is 48, and blank is 1 point or 2 points. What do you mean by that? They use this like, it can change like 2 points here and there. What do you think that is? They use the term.
The margin of error?
Yes, good job. Margin of error. So you watch news next time and pay attention to that. They will talk about error. What they also should talk about, which they don't, is the confidence. Most of these polls are calculated based on 95% or 99%. And the percentage will depend on the sample size. Again, we'll talk about that later. So the idea is that researchers ask questions about variables in the population or the relationship between them, right? So they'll get a sample value. Then based on that sample value, they estimate the population value in a range of probable values. with a certain degree of confidence. Does it make any sense? Does it make any sense? Yes. Okay. So what do scientists do?
Research.
Why do they do it?
To answer
Answer
questions.
Questions.
And how do they do it?
Using research.
Research methods.
And the research methods important thing is about randomly selecting a sample, right? Then calculating the sample value of that variable, then making inferences about the population value based on the sample value with certain degree of confidence.